You have a minute. What are you building?
We're building my gym buddy.
There are two great stories that you're telling, if I can be honest, poorly.
I don't care if you're making money right now. I just care if A16Z is on your cap table.
This is not compelling.
By your logic, they wouldn't like any companies to take on venture debt.
I'm going to shove you into the pool.
It's a good thing I was a swimmer.
You told a minute pitch that has nothing to do with the product you then described.
It's not just a crypto.
It's all scammers, grifters,
Absolutely.
including the VCs who have built it.
It's actually reached $1.3 billion.
Just so you know, you tricked me.
Yes, you're solving a problem. Yes, it does exist, but like your value proposition has to be so valuable that like it has to overcome all these other different pieces.
Welcome to the offices of Free Agency if you haven't been before. My name is Sherveen. I'm the founder and CEO of venture-backed Free Agency. The only shilling I'll do is tell everybody we are a venture-backed startup ourselves. We provide Hollywood-style representation for tech talent. That means a variety of job search and career services for people who work inside tech. If you're hiring or job searching, find me later. I'll tell you more about it. But we also host things like the Feedback Loop, which I'm super excited about. Before I introduce our guest investor and guest host for the evening, I'll recap for folks who haven't been. How many people have been to the Feedback Loop, actually? So almost all newcomers. And then how many people have watched on YouTube? Nice. I like it. We've been doing this since about May. And the whole concept is to bring founders on stage to give their 1-minute pitch and then get really unfiltered, tactical feedback on both their storytelling and their concept. And a lot of the reason for this, from a high-level perspective, you can be the right founder, you can be in an awesome market, you can have the right idea, and yet if you can't tell a concise version of the pitch, if you can't convince others, tell them what you know that they might not yet know, it can still hold you and your team back. And so the whole idea is to create a tight, short, quick, awesome feedback loop for these founders and hopefully push them forward in their own startup and career journey. So in addition to the founders that we invite, 7 of which we'll be talking today on stage, we also get to bring a guest venture investor every single week to the stage to add to my feedback for these individuals. And I'm always excited because I'm an occasional angel investor, but these folks are professional investors who live and breathe check writing every single day, hear a ton of pitches. Nika, you are a partner at Inflect Capital, which is a super interesting firm, but you have a variety of venture experience, more recently now health and wellness, but more generalist as a background. You're going to do a much better job of talking about your background than I am. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself a little bit to the crowd?
Great. Thanks so much for having me. Hey, everyone. I'm Nika Duan, partner at Inflect Capital. We are an early stage healthcare fund focused on pre-seed, seed, and Series A investing all across health and wellness. You could be a B2B AI billing company. You could be a CPG wellness product. We'll kind of look at the entire spectrum. And what makes us special is really we are an evergreen fund backed by a single LP. And that LP is one of the biggest provider groups in the US. They've got about 6,000 physicians within their ecosystem who see 10 million patients every year. And that kind of on the grounds care delivery information is what really powers our investment. So we're really hearing in real time, what are the real problems that exist within healthcare? What are the problems that people are willing to pay for? Where are there new innovation and technologies that people are excited about? And then we really invest against that information. And then on the back end, we're able to provide our portfolio companies with access to that expertise and also network so that they can accelerate their go-to-market and sales.
From the perspective of an investor who's been in multiple industries, you've gotten to kind of exposed to student founders, to founders in impact, now healthcare. What's the lesson from seeing across so many industries? I think of a lot of investors who've sat next to me. They'll be not necessarily even specialists, but they'll generally do fintech and B2B SaaS, or they'll generally be consumer. And I think that can often influence how they perceive or hear a pitch. Is there anything that you think is notable or interesting from having kind of crossed so many rivers?
I just think, we love, the thread to me is we love backing founders that spike on a particular thing. You don't have to be perfect at everything. I actually would prefer you to not be perfect or not be good enough at everything. We're always asking, like, where does this founder spike? Are they really the best salesperson? Are they incredible at recruiting talent, getting people to join their team, at recruiting advisors, at selling to customers and investors? Or are they like an incredible builder? They're super technical. They can build a product and iterate super, super quickly. Like, what is your superpower? And then you can hire to augment all the other pieces. But you kind of have to spike on at least one or two things. And we're really looking for that. And I think that remains true regardless of what industry you're building in.
I give that feedback a tremendous amount to clients, one of which is in the crowd of agency from a job search perspective. I talk about use your sharp edge and lean into it. Yeah. Often that can mean you will cause people to say no because of the strength that might be a downside to some people.
Yeah.
But your sharp edge is still your sharp edge. Play your own game, win at your own game. And I think that's mirrored in a lot of what you're saying there. With a round of applause, let's all welcome founder number one to stage. All right, what's your name?
My name's Deanna Rath.
Are you ready to tell us what you're building in a minute, get some awesome feedback?
Yes, I am.
Hopefully awesome feedback. You have a minute. What are you building?
All right, well, we're building My Gym Buddy, which is an app that helps you find a workout partner on demand. Now, I'm sure everyone here knows by now that we are experiencing a loneliness epidemic. And at the same time, people are prioritizing health and wellness more than ever before. Ever since COVID, people want to take more control over their health and wellness. And that's where we come in. So our solution, by helping you find a workout partner on demand, we're helping you make new friendships through a fitness community building platform. Now, we are positioning ourselves as a B2B SaaS company, so gym owners will be able to attract and retain their memberships. This is extremely important because memberships are the key driver to success for gym owners. Now, having that fitness community all in one platform is going to help them keep their members engaged and boost everyone's well-being. And that's the pitch.
Under a minute. Good job. I'm going to kick us off with a few questions. I think it was interesting when you made that point as to your positioning as B2B and you're helping, other parties. Let me ask this in like kind of a raw way. Why? And I presume that there was optionality for you in your concept because it sounds like the buddy component of this could have been, direct to consumer, find someone to run with you. So what's the hypothesis behind the partnership or the thinking of the client as the business?
Mostly the loneliness epidemic, like that is something that everyone's experiencing. But since COVID, there's been a huge rise in guest pass sales. It's actually reached $1.3 billion in the US. And that was in 2023. It's expected to continue to rise. And guest pass sales, those are directly sold by the gyms. Now, if you want to work out with a partner and they have a different gym membership than you'll be able to buy a guest pass through our platform. Now, if we had focused on the users, we wouldn't be able to capture that extra revenue. So by
this
focusing on
is like a fun fact that needs to be part of your pitch. Like it's one of those things I'm delighted by knowing, first of all. So just like educating me and making me get to walk away with that is fun. But then also it is such a justification. Even if I have more questions as to why, it is a very good starting point. Justification as to why you're going B2B. Because you start so consumer, right? The loneliness epidemic, there are a lot of pitches about this every single week, attacking whether it's the specific applied case or just generally, I want to match make friends. So people are familiar with your theme. And so driving from your theme to some specifics and the stat being like a specific that inspired you, I think would be a really strong basis for your story.
Okay, great. That's great feedback. Thank you.
Yeah, I agree with that. Piggybacking off of what Sherveen said, because you started off with a problem statement that was very oriented to the consumer, my mind in the beginning went, oh, this is likely a B2C business. And then you said you were B2B. And then I really thought, wow, I wish she had started off with the problem that the gyms were facing or the problems and then really hit it home on this is a value prop for the gyms, which came up later. The orientation of where you started the problem really made me think consumer.
Yeah, you don't want to surprise us. The delight of the fun fact is delightful and surprising. You don't want to surprise us by taking a hard left turn, right? And so that B2C to B2B is a little bit of a hard left turn. Let's get into it though a little bit. User experience wise, what is the product for the business and then for the end user? What give us a sense of what it's going to feel like to use?
Yes, yeah. So it is like B2B to C, right? Because the users are going to be using it too. But for the business owner specifically, they're having trouble. Like I said earlier, memberships are the most important for bringing down their overall costs for their business. And right now, the solutions for them don't really encourage them to stay at their community. Some of the solutions for gyms out there are kind of tailored more towards the end users, the consumers, kind of offering a way for them to try different gyms. So we saw an opening there where, hey, wait, these gyms really want to keep people. We need to help them keep these people. So that's the experience that we saw as we were talking to gym owners doing our initial research. And then for the end user, I mean, I've moved around from city to city. I've lived in Indianapolis. I've lived in, I was born in Mexico. So I've lived in Mexico, North Carolina, Texas, and then now here. And every time I moved to a new place, I found my best friends through working out, whether that's taking dance classes or going to spin classes. If you have a routine where you're taking care of your wellness, really like committed to it, and you start to see the same people every week doing the same thing, it's so much easier to build those organic friendships. Now, it is hard to kind of find that momentum, and there's data out there that shows you are more likely to actually work out if you make plans with someone and like they hold you accountable, right? So we saw an opportunity both from the business owners and the end users. But at the end of the day, we are a business. We need to make money, and we feel like the businesses are going to be willing to pay for services over the users because the current solutions out there are focused on the users, and they seem to just be driving the prices down for the gyms.
Well, I have a bunch of questions just to understand the consumer experience. Let's say I sign up, I'm on the platform. Are you matching me with a total random gym buddy who would potentially go to my gym, or am I like bring my friend onto the platform for us to find a gym that we're mutually excited about?
So for all the users, you start off with an onboarding quiz. That way we're not matching you with someone completely random, right? We want them to have a similar workout preferences as you. So let's say like I like going to classes. So for me, it would be someone who likes going to classes, yoga classes and whatnot. And I'm an intermediate. But if someone's a beginner, an expert would not want to work out with them. So that's why capturing that data at the beginning during the onboarding for the users is really important. And we'll be able to match them up with someone who will actually have a good workout with them. But they can share it with their friends too. We're hoping they love the app so much that they'll want to invite all of their friends to join.
Why? What's happening on the app?
So, okay, so the experience, once you're on there, once you've onboarded, so if someone cancels on you, which happens to me all the time, especially if I plan a workout on Saturday morning, some people go to sleep a little too late. They end up pushing the workout out and out and out, and I end up just going alone. Like I should have made plans with someone else. But next time that happens, instead of having to text someone or text a bunch of people frantically trying to find someone, I just have to push a button and I invite someone on my network from the app. So it's just an easier way to, in real time, find someone who's going to work out with you. And to answer your part about, is it the same gym or not? That just depends what you want to do. I like to switch it up. So for me, it would just depend on what I want to do at that point in time. But I know other people, if they're already paying for one gym membership, they're not going to want to go to other gym memberships. So they really have the option to filter for their home gym or for a specific workout that they want.
And you get paid every time we go to a particular gym that works with you.
Okay, so there are a couple of different revenue streams. So the first one, we are launching a subscription model for the people who are working out the most, using this 5-6 times a week. And then we are also, after we establish product market fit, we are going to be running ads. I have a background in the advertising industry. I've worked both on the media company side and the advertising agency side, and I'm not one to leave money on the table. So we will be running ads eventually, but only after we've mastered the user experience, because we know that can hinder it at the beginning. And then the third revenue generating activity is going to be from those gym pass sales. So we're taking, it's a revenue share model. So 50% of incremental revenue, but they wouldn't have gotten that before, right? Because the process right now to get a gym pass, you have to go physically to the gym. Most of them don't have it on their app or on their website. So you have to go to the gym. Hopefully there's no line. Okay. And then you have to fill out all your information so that they can harass you about signing up later. And then you finally get to sign a waiver and go in. But if you want to work out with a partner, they might already be halfway done with their workout by then. So
how early are you in your journey?
So we're actually launching the beta at the end of this month, and then planning to be in the App Store next month.
I have like 2 big pieces of feedback: concept and storytelling. Let me start with the storytelling, because there are 2 great stories that you're telling, if I can be honest, poorly.
Okay.
Because they're both kind of timid about the fullness of the story. One of the stories would be if you were going B2C. And it's all the things that you're saying, but you're not weaving them into one narrative around when I work out, I have a buddy, or I might try to find a buddy. By the way, sometimes that buddy might not be there, so I want to backfill so that I don't not go that day. And I want accountability even when my friend isn't there. I want multiple friends. And this brings into a narrative around the loneliness epidemic, and this ties into a narrative around the uses of a gym from the perspective of somebody who wants it to be kind of like a backfill system and like an idea of like the gym now becomes a social experience. That's one thing that you'd say. On the B2B side, what you'd say is gyms have this underrated component of revenue and monetization, which is guest passes. You might not know, here's the amount of guest passes they sell, and here's what guest passes do for retention. If you work out more, you're likelier to keep your membership. So we're going to help gyms have people work out more. How? Well, people tend to work out more if they have a buddy. And so we're going to help gyms create more buddies within their existing memberships that will create retention, that will create revenue. You have to, now this is where I switch to concept feedback as a founder to founder. I would pick one. You are about to enter madness. You're already in a tar pit, which is not a bad thing. Are you familiar with the term tar pit?
Yes.
For the crowd, tar pit idea, this is typically something that young people all experience. It might be working out, dating, taking notes. And so there are 1,000 startups in this tar pit, and it's really sticky because there are so many competing ideas, and there are also other options for all of these individuals. And tar pit startups generally have a struggle because of how noisy those markets are. It does indicate there's a big problem though, right? So I don't think it's a bad thing to be a tar pit startup, but you already have that challenge. And so if you don't pick one of these extremes, you're solving out a lot of different problems for a lot of the stakeholders you've mentioned to us, rather than solving, and you might not have heard this before. We brought you up as the first founder on stage. Nika and I were talking about this whole idea of like your sharp edge as a pitcher, as a founder, but also as a startup. What's the sharp edge that you're going to bring to the table? And it sounds like I saw your face as I was giving you the B2B version of your story, and that got you more excited. Tell that story. You can still have the addendum slides that talk about loneliness epidemic and this and that, but if you're going to be a B2B business is going to focus on gyms want retention through buddy mechanism then justified through consumer story. But back to these passes can be monetized directly, but will also likely lead to membership sales, revenue share, all those things. I'm curious what you think.
No, I totally agree. I would definitely pick the B2B lane and stick there. And also, I thought if you really come through with like, these are the 3 reasons why gyms absolutely need my solution. And it's like, they need membership retention. That's super critical to them. I'm also bringing them net new customers, like, or basically I'm giving them much more exposure to a bucket of new customers that they otherwise wouldn't be able to experience. And I'm making their product stickier. Like, I think it took us a little bit to get to like, what is the problem that you're solving for? And are people actually willing to pay for it? Like that was the question in my head of like, and I think maybe that's an also byproduct of the fact that you operated both in the B2B and the B2C world, because it was like, okay, so who's the value proposition geared towards, the gym or the user, you know?
And I just want to say already, like, you're right to, I know you said earlier, like you're B2B to C, but the reason this is still important at a top level is there's one stakeholder who really matters in your case. You can still tell the B2C story in terms of what you think is happening with consumers in a gym as part, again, of your justification for a lot of things, but I think it can't be part of the main story because you're not addressing that stuff as it relates to your core monetization or product stream.
Okay. Yes, absolutely. That makes sense. I will definitely focus more on the B2B part of it next time. But what I will say is that the main value we would bring to these gyms is the users. And so that's why we do have to focus so much on the users. But I see what you mean by not focusing so much.
But can I point something out to you though?
Part.
If you went to a gym and you sat there as a human and you created buddies, that's a version of your product. That has nothing to do with a B2C approach. In other words, if you're going to go B2B, you're trying to create more buddies, right? That's what you're trying to do. Only tell that story and only do that thing versus you even said there's like a subscription that it sounds like was for consumers that you're testing. Right. These things won't help you be better at creating more buddies inside gyms. That's the only flywheel you need to create. How do I get gyms to have more buddies inside them that they think of me as the attribution, the creator of those buddies? Every pair that I create is a positive KPI for my business as it impacts that gym. And then you'll track, okay, a pair creates this amount of revenue and comes downstream of that. But that's downstream, right? Mm-hmm. It's not kind of top front.
Right. Okay. That makes sense.
Thanks for sharing. Great job.
Thank you.
As it relates to the concept of wellness, Nika, which you're deep in, this is a sector, everything is almost a tar pit, because wellness, whether it's supplements, whether it's gym apps, whether it's consumer apps that are just trying to help you track or journal, whatever it is, the market's saturated and no one knows what really works. There's a bunch of different problems there. How do you sort noise and signal, given just how much of a tar pit wellness can be?
I think it is a function of like how compelling is your value proposition when I hear it, or when your customer hear it, or when another user hears it. Are they immediately like, I need that. That actually really solves the problem that I have, and I want to pay for it. And I think in particular too, for these types of businesses, especially structured the way this is, where there are multiple stakeholders, it really gets confusing, right? Like I feel like I have spent a lot of my career operating in industries where there are multiple stakeholders, and it's always confusing to untangle where's the incentive pulling folks. So think about like ed tech, right? Where classic example where your end user, let's say a teacher or a student, is not necessarily the buyer, the district or the parent. And so how do you juggle like managing multiple stakeholders and having a product that speaks to both the person who pays and the person who uses it? And I think that happens in healthcare. And I think these are,
This is where she was generally right to suggest like she needs to care a lot about the end user. So my pushback there might have been too strong in terms of like, it's not that I want her to ignore that person or that user experience. It's that it can't be the top line in terms of why her business is interesting from an investment perspective or a growth perspective, even though, again, she should be expert at understanding how to make that super delightful for the end user.
I would say maybe an addendum to your feedback. I thought it could have been a great way for her to talk about her background and expertise. Like, can you weave that into part of your story, which is like, I am the founder that's uniquely qualified because of my advertising experience to attract users in a really authentic way. And that's my wedge. And so I know how to get people together, and I've experienced this problem. And I can, uniquely rise up against the noise in this really crowded market because I know how to speak to these people.
Yeah. As the go-to-market of downloading that application, even once you sell to the gym, you still have that second step. Shall we welcome the next founder stage?
Let's do it.
Round of applause for founder number 2. What's your name?
My name is Daniel.
All right, Daniel, are you ready to tell us what you're building in a minute and get some feedback?
Yeah, sure.
You have a minute. What are you building?
Hi, I am the CEO of CloudMedic, and we help patients get medical supplies quicker and help suppliers get reimbursed faster. So 40% of Americans live with at least one chronic condition, and they wait weeks to receive their medical supplies. What we do is we help them get that stuff faster on the supplier side, on the operational side. And the way we do that, to backtrack, this is done in the diabetic, for example, in the respiratory spaces when they need these supplies and they just can't get them due to the operational overhead. $63 billion industry, and they have the same pain points with insurances and clerical work as every other healthcare startup, every other healthcare situation. So we help with order management, billing, and insurance collection, stuff like that. We have a few customers, and we're looking to onboard the next cohort very soon.
All right, good job. This is your space. I'll let you go first.
Yeah.
Wow. I mean, so super interesting problem. It didn't come up until much later in the pitch that the problem driving for why patients had to wait for so long was because of billing challenges or, paperwork with the insurance company, potentially prior auth. So I would maybe have started somewhere in that realm. Like, this is a super big need. This is the experience of a diabetic patient today. Here's what we're doing to solve that problem. And we monetize via X, Y, and Z. We didn't really hear much about the business model, so I'm not totally sure how you make money or who your customer is. Is it who pays you? So maybe a little bit more context around that in a minute would have been helpful.
Why don't you give some of that context?
Yeah. I had a different version of the pitch before I came, and it's the nerves that took over. So our customer is the medical supplier. and we charge them currently on a monthly
I
subscription
just want you
basis.
to understand that that's very surprising to me, which is not a good signal as to this new pitch. Just to, add on to the feedback that Nika gave already, like, sounded very much like the patient was your customer. I know you said, I did hear you say reimbursements for medical suppliers as part of the pitch, so it's not that I wasn't listening, but it still was so centered on this user experience without even getting to those details. But just want you to feel that. But go ahead.
Correct. But before I answer, the point there is that many people aren't familiar with this pain space, right, of the medical supply and how much that affects the patient on the availability. Because we have Amazon today and people get their products, but when it comes to insurance overhead, people don't get those things as quickly. There's a lot of clerical work that happens. So I really kind of spent a good amount of time understanding that, and then go into the next part. But yeah, so the supplier is the client, and when we help them, that gets results to the patient, because the supplier is our customer and the patient is their customer. So that's kind of how we do that. Right now, we're on a subscription basis, and we will go into the operational
What are you doing
side.
for them?
So we help them with processing their orders. We help them fulfill their orders.
What does help mean?
Help meaning we have a platform, end-to-end vertical software that we built the EMR, we built the order management intake, we built.
What are they using today?
It's very fragmented in the medical supply space. It's not like the hospital space, and so there's
Why is that bad for them?
Why is
what's the negative of the fragmented space right now to the supplier?
Nobody is solving the critical problems, and they're just kind of attacking the critical problems of trying to get these automations and paperwork done quickly. So, for example, there's a case where you need to hire somebody at $60K a year to resolve one problem, just correspondence with insurance companies. We can resolve that.
What does the problem look like?
The problem is I'm sitting there and I get a request from an insurance company to follow up on paperwork, and they need proof for why this item.
How do you solve that?
So we solve it by automating the responses via templates and Gen AI. Then there's other automations that we do. Hopefully
I've had to pull your tooth to get the first good thing about your product.
Correct.
So like, something to think about my series of questions is because none of this is coming across.
Correct.
I think you're staying in these labels of supplier and patient, and there's a problem. But what is the problem? Well, the problem is not that there's fragmented solutions. That by itself is not actually a problem. Yes, we can guess what fragmented solutions means, which is like the UI is bad and it's not all connected and there's a lot of paperwork. But what we really mean to say is the fragmented solutions are causing delays because insurance need responses, and the AMR is not well integrated with the supply side CRM. The CRM does not properly track orders, and so if the warehouse is a third party, then you're not properly communicating as a supplier with your warehouse. All of those things are the problems that you have to get out, because otherwise we're not experiencing anything other than they have problems.
Yeah.
And then you have to mention your solution, because, for example, an automated template-based form on something that is structured data and probably is not that subjective. It probably has a bunch of rules. And Gen AI is probably very great for this use case.
Correct.
So this is where I think your pitch needs to orient a lot towards this stuff.
Correct. And because,
can I just also add on to that? I actually think you could even be one level simpler, which is like, are you saving the suppliers time? Like, is it basically like they don't actually need to have so many people working on paperwork, filing, or calling up insurance companies, and so I'm saving them a ton of time. They also get paid faster. I mean, I'm not sure. I'm just, do they get paid faster because the product gets the patient faster? Are you enabling them to basically, get their products out or buy products at a cheaper price? I bet, a lot of what you're talking about from the higher level perspective, you especially would be sympathetic to hearing there's a doctor also in this relationship who's frustrated in addition to their patient. Yes. And those two But it wasn't clear to me if this existed in like a home care setting and in inpatient setting. Like, you said you don't work with hospitals, so it's not, what does the patient journey look like, right? How do I even get the product? So in some ways, I think an example would be really clarifying. Like, look, you're a diabetic patient. You come into the hospital. I'm not sure. So you come into the hospital, you realize you need X, Y, and Z supplies, and then the doctor prescribes? How does that work?
So,
You know
By the
what I
way,
mean?
as the non-expert, before you answer, that the reason what she just said is so compelling. We've had so many pitches that have shown me as someone, my mother and sister are physicians, but other than that, I'm not in the world that you live in or that you live in. And so they've taught me things about some of the problem, for example, with physical therapy is what happens after the first month, where it's like it's very scheduled and segmented based off of the surgery you might have had, but then it's up to the patient in compliance or inpatient and outpatient settings. So there's nuances in the setting that you did not get to that, again, doesn't allow us to imagine the upside of your product.
Correct.
And I think, again, you can respond to some of this in a sec, but like, I really want you to live in it, because part of the reason I am pulling teeth here versus giving up on you is because it sounds like a great solution. If you properly describe the problem and solution, like we all probably want this to exist. Yeah. So I'm going to shove you into the pool so that you can, come up and tell us all about it.
It's a good thing I was a swimmer for many years. So the way that the workflow looks, the patient goes to the doctor writes a script. That script gets sent to the supplier. The supplier is usually national or a smaller local player that fulfills that order on behalf of the doctor and then bills the insurance. So the way that works, that script comes in, they put it into our platform, they schedule a delivery, and we have logistics and mobile app that help their drivers deliver it directly to the patients. So we do all that handling on them. When the delivery gets done, patient signs directly on the tablet, goes directly into the patient chart. So it's another automation that we added in the stack. Once that form comes in, our client can bill the insurance companies, wait for the money to come in, put it back in, and get reports and analytics on things that are going on in their business and their revenues and stuff like that. So this is the full stack. Now, that's kind of the workflow. So hopefully that answers your question.
Super helpful. And then what is the world without your solution?
Yeah. So the world without our solution, we started because my co-founder has been in the space for 12 years, and he was using a server that was locally running from a software from 1996, and many people still do today in New York. And we took that and we automated it in such a way where it's in one platform.
What's the literal experience of the supplier right now without your solution? What's happening, or to the patient, whatever, without Cloud Medic?
The patient gets their supplies within a day or two instead of a week. And the supplier can bill within 15 minutes. With us, they can bill in 15 minutes. Without, it would take them 8 hours.
Let me ask my question, then I want to give you some feedback on this. And again, I want to pull this out of you because I think this product needs to exist. Sorry. And so, no worries. This is a stage.
I'm a highly technical guy.
And we've chatted, and I know you're building for the right reasons. So, why are the suppliers not themselves, or up until 2024, they have not been biting for this? So tell me, whether it's your co-founder has a story or you have an anecdote, why have they decided to continue to live in the past? Why is it a locally run server with an application from the 90s? What is it about suppliers or this relationship or this market that has not had them modernize?
A lot has to deal with they're not aware of what's out there, and they're not aware of the technology that's out there. They use 3 different platforms.
But I'm sure they don't want a patient to go through 2 weeks of delay, right? When that happens, what are they feeling?
A lot of the time, the patient has no choice.
No, the supplier.
The supplier...
Do they not care?
Orders come in and they fulfill it, and they are looking for solutions, but they're not really out there.
And they're not incentivized to make it faster? Or are they?
The legacy players are not really trying to make it faster.
Why aren't their competitors making them outdated? Why haven't they been replaced by suppliers who care more? Are the margins too low in this business for competitors? Is it because these competitors tend to be big conglomerates?
The competitors are big conglomerates. So they were actually acquired by one of the main competitors was acquired by a manufacturer. So you can think that there's a possible.
So let me round some of this out, and I'd love your thoughts on how I round it out. It sounds like your suppliers here are legacy businesses who don't have a reason to care. Probably the margin's low. Probably the desire for change from even providers or patients is overridden by the desire for reliability. I want the right meds more than I want to push. When I push, there are too many stakeholders and approval processes involved. So when you were describing earlier a little bit more clearly the problem, what I imagined is a circle of stakeholders. And I actually don't like usually circle-based problems. I usually like chronological stories. But the reason I think of it this way is that you could say something like, look, let's take the example of a diabetic patient who needs supplies. They have a doctor who cares about them getting supplies. They care about their health outcomes from a supply perspective. Supplier wants to have that patient for life. That'd be great for them from an LTP perspective. And that ecosystem, and maybe there's two other stakeholders, the insurer, I don't know. All of these stakeholders care about this thing happening. But there are 5 or 7 or 10 reasons that it doesn't happen. The systems aren't integrated. The shipping has this complication. The approval processes required are outdated, whatever it might be. And these 7 to 10 reasons prevent all of this circle of stakeholders from getting the outcome that they want. And what our solution does is it takes the piece about automation, integration, that takes the piece about delivery, it takes this piece about patient communication, because you might tell a story like one of the reasons that diabetic is going to get a 2-week delay on whatever they need to their home is because by the time they realize something's missing, they have to call the supplier and say it's missing. The supplier is going to say, okay, call us back tomorrow. Hang up. Okay, tomorrow you call them again. Hey, it's missing. Oh, this is a ticket in our system. Sorry, call us back tomorrow. Okay. Then the next day, okay, now you need to call your doctor. The supplier calls back and says, you need to call your doctor because we don't have actually the prescription we need. They call the doctor calls that office. Then the doctor calls that office, but fills for a brand name versus a generic. I mean, now I'm thinking about pills, but whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know how
the
this
pharmacy space is very similar. They're actually merging.
So this is why, you just hear that I'm describing this because then what you say is, well, what CloudMedic does is all of that is visible to all stakeholders at all times, allowing for any of those stakeholders to drive towards outcome X in 1 or 2 places.
That is the end solution because bringing all stakeholders visibility is easier said than done.
Yeah. I think my sense is that the friction here is really real, meaning like the incumbents actually do have a lot of power. The existing solutions, they're not good, but not good solutions within healthcare has existed for forever and people just live with it, right? People just learn to, right? I mean, like, think about have you ever met a doctor who loves Epic? No, but like, is this still the leading EHR? Yes, absolutely. Do I think anyone is going to displace them anytime soon? No. And so my worry here, and this is maybe just like giving you like behind the curtain, this is what I'm thinking as an investor. Yes, you're solving a problem. Yes, it does exist, but like your value proposition has to be so valuable that like it has to overcome all these other different pieces, right? And I think the challenge within this space is when I've talked to, and I know you're not necessarily integrating with hospitals or health systems, but I'm going to talk to hospitals and health systems who are managing their supply chain. I've asked them about this, like, what software do you use? Is it still super manual where you're counting up different, number of supplies that you have within your back office? Yes, absolutely. Does it take a lot of human power? Yes. Can we figure out a way to apply technology to this? Yes. But do we not do it? Do we not apply technology and do we just use humans? Yes. Why is that? Because the county is paying for our existing Oracle software. Does it suck? Yes. But is it integrated with, Epic? Yes. So do we use it? Yes. Is this like what our doctors are familiar with? Yes. And so we're not going to change our entire, tech stack to integrate with a new solution that makes our lives marginally better. But it has to make our lives incredibly better. So I'm thinking about, okay, how good is your value proposition that justifies me spending all that time? So that's I need to hear you say this is super painful and I'm willing to pay a lot for it. And even though it's going to take a lot of change management and investment in new technologies, I'm willing to do it because on the other side is this incredible world that I want to live in.
Correct.
And for the sake of time, we're going to have to move on.
Go ahead.
No, we have to say good job. Good luck.
Thank you. Thank you.
Twice, I think you've been giving the very good sharp feedback of, are you telling a story that someone's going to pay for?
Yeah.
It's so important to realize, especially in the concept of, have you refined a pitch? Are you telling a story that your pitch, is it good enough that someone off that rip is going to say, I want to hear more. Right? I want to buy it.
Yeah. I think, especially again, when there's multiple stakeholders.
Yeah.
I think it's am I telling a very clear value proposition to someone where they're yes, that's exactly my pain and it's super painful and I'm willing to buy it.
Yeah.
I feel as investors, we're frequently looking for, what is it? Painkillers versus vitamins, right? Like I want the thing that people need right now and are willing to pay for right now. And so that's what I'm listening for.
Totally. Next founder up, shall we?
Let's do it.
So round of applause, founder number 3. What's your name?
My name is Zoe.
Zoe, are you ready to tell us what you're building in a minute and get some feedback? Go ahead, tell us, what are you building?
Hi, my name is Zoe. I'm building the very first LLM private credit marketplace. Private credit, for any of you guys don't know, means non-bank lending. Now, coming from a finance background myself and as a second founder, I find it extremely difficult for us early stage companies to get credit from banks. And I really don't know any private lenders as well. From the investor's perspective, they're always looking to private credit investment opportunities, but they have no way to find us. Thus, I'm building a platform to connect borrowers with lenders. We streamline the whole transaction process on our platform. We use LLMs to rapidly assess companies' creditworthiness and give it a credit rating. And that cuts down the due diligence time from months to minutes. And that saves both parties time and money.
Under a minute, good job.
Yep. Thank you.
I want to start with just a question. This private credit, from what I've read, seems to be exploding in general as a financial instrument. Why is that? Is that part of your story and why you identified this zeitgeist and trend and said, okay, A, yes, it's exploding. I want to get involved, or I want to, build on top of this. But B, there's parts of this that lend itself towards my solution as well. I want to hear about it, both to know about it from an industry perspective, but also to hear if there's part of the zeitgeist in the story that I'm hearing out in the world that's part of why this is going to work.
Yeah. So as you know, private credit has been growing exponentially, and it's going to reach over 3 trillion in less than 4 years. And I think there's a huge opportunity here because private credit is really not highly correlated to equity or bonds. So investors seeing this as a really attractive investment, they get consistent return. Unlike equity and commercial real estate, you don't know where it's going to go the next day. So that's one of the reasons. And also being the founder myself, I'm seeing a lot of my founder friends experience this same issue. They can't get credit from banks because ever since the 2008 financial crisis, they have a lot of regulations. You can't get credit for if you've been in business for under 2 years.
So you're suggesting that a lot more businesses could access money by accessing the private credit market that currently don't.
Yes.
Is that as easily as this? As in, like, could a venture-backed startup that looks for venture money today and said, no, if I had access to a marketplace, would private credit be attracted to a venture investment?
Absolutely. I think so.
I think this is a key part of the pitch. And I pointed out to say, like, one of the things that I understand about private credit, actually, I should say that I don't understand about private credit, is why or why not they would make an expansion choice in terms of, oh, I want to invest outside of these vehicles or relationships that currently exist.
Invest outside of this vehicle.
Like, you're suggesting a marketplace should exist, and the marketplace is going to expand the opportunities both for the supply and demand side. There are companies that want access to cash, and there's private credit that wants access to investments. But for this particular type of investment, private credit, would they say, and why? And if they would say, why would they say that they are missing access to certain opportunities?
Yes. So, for example, our target is family offices. They really have no access to early stage companies. Plus, individual debt deals is too small for them. That's why our platform bundles the debt together, securitize the debt, and create an institutional investable great product for them to invest. It's diversified, it's risk adjusted, and that's highly attractive. And nobody has ever done that.
Thoughts?
That was a different pitch than I originally heard. I didn't realize you actually packaged essentially all the investment opportunities. I thought it was the existing investment opportunity as is, and then a funder can go onto your marketplace and select which opportunities they want to back. But it actually sounds like you're packaging them, and it's across equity and debt.
Well, mainly just debt. But I'm guessing some individual lenders would prefer mezzanine, part equity, part debt. The reason I didn't mention that was under a minute.
Let me understand something more basic here. when you're structuring, because you mentioned marketplace, and a marketplace, in addition to what Nika mentioned, the other thing that it implies is this idea of like you're going to take a arm's length versus a managed marketplace versus a centralized product, where if you're packaging something, to me, that doesn't lend itself towards the term marketplace. How much are you packaging? How much are you a managed marketplace, or how much of you are you actually a financial institution creating, kind of funds or opportunities that other people can access?
So initially, it's going to be one-on-one because we need to build that flow. We need to have like at least thousands of companies to come on our platform. After that, after we get familiar with the risk profile, we can categorize them into, say, like the Moody's and S&P. We can grade them into like an A-rated bundle or B-rated bundle, and then investors, family offices view this as really attractive.
What's in the bundle?
For example, you can create a health tech bundle. You can create a SaaS
then if it's
bundle.
debt, well, everyone in that health tech bundle, let's say it's 5 companies.
It's just debt.
But do they all receive the same terms?
I'm not professional private credit manager, but I would see how they structure it.
Well, I think that's important because that indicates something about the return opportunity for the investor, right? Because if it's, and this is, look, I don't mean to take apart the concept too much, but part of the reason private credit is probably works as it is they're making individual decisions. Yeah. And so if you're saying actually they should access a different vehicle, it's important to understand maybe there's a reason. For example, you can't bundle 5 startups because all 5 would require a completely different deal.
Yeah.
And so if you tried to package it, maybe it wouldn't work.
I see what you're saying. So I guess in this case, yes, they're getting the same term because they're earlier stage. They don't really have a bargaining power. They're not like Series C where you can create a bespoke private credit offer with them. So at this stage, they take whatever they can get.
How do you guys get paid and who takes on the risk?
Yeah, so we get paid based on transaction. We take 0.5 to 2% based on facilitated transaction. After we create a securitized debt, we take like a 2% management fee and 20% carry. It essentially act like a fund manager. And then we have the SaaS component as well. We charge the lenders because we offer them the pipeline to get access to these companies, and due diligence, advisory, that can all add on to the platform.
What's expected IRR for an investor on the platform?
Well, right now it's in the high teens.
And is that competitive with what they'd be?
It's very competitive. I'm currently facilitating, because the platform isn't ready, I'm facilitating 28 million off of the platform right now. I got 1.2 billion in the pipeline. We're just doing this the traditional way, and we're dying for this platform to get ready and move everything on the platform.
If you were charging the fees you're suggesting you're going to charge, would it still be an attractive return?
Yeah. The one asset manager I'm working with, they charge 5% on whatever they can raise for the startup. And we are only charge 0.5 to 2%. That's really...
They're charging the company?
They're charging the company, the borrower.
What do you think is the harder... Which party is the hardest to get onto the platform first?
Honestly, I think it's really easy for both parties. I have 5,000 family offices contact list, and they're interested in, I know startups are always looking for cash.
Why would both parties not just prefer venture deals?
Because you give out your equity. I'm a founder. I don't want to give equity to...
Why not?
Why? I'm
a founder. I don't mind giving away equity. Okay. I get cash.
If I give you $1 million today and you're only
What's
getting...
the terms of the private credit deal?
Okay, if you're only getting like, say, 10%, 15%, are you confident that if I give you $1 million today, in 1 year, you can make that like over 1.1?
It's very risky if there's covenants in the deal that are going to punish me for not returning a ticket, no?
Well, it depends on what kind of business you're on.
I would tell you very confidently that 95% of startups, if not more, would fail, which is why venture debt is a very small category. Why debt in general? I'm going to assume that you suggest almost no founders take debt. I'm assuming venture debt is probably not a big part of the portfolio because these companies cannot guarantee cash on cash. Paying that ticket, if you are going into a traditional vehicle, so let's say that you are literally a fintech company offering a loan to a customer, then okay, fine, I know you're going to pay me back because I'm offering you a loan and I'm underwriting that loan. But if I'm a startup with a SaaS product and I'm in my early stage, seed all the way to C, I might pivot. I might have new product lines. The macro might affect my renewals. And suddenly there's covenants in probably the private credit deal that are going to punish me if I don't pay my voucher.
Well, we don't. You know how venture debt works, right? If A16Z is on your cap table, you'll most likely get funded by your next round. So
venture debt is different than venture capital.
Yeah, it's different. So it's valued. Well, the underwriting criteria is a bit different. I don't care if you're making money right now. I just care if A16Z is on your cap table. So you can raise your next round. So I know I'm
for venture debt.
For venture debt.
No, but the economics for the startup, they care if they can pay the ticket.
Yeah, if you can raise your next round.
I don't want to pay you. I don't want to pay you. Then I'm going to pay you with equity. If I don't have revenue to pay my venture debt provider, and I'm going to later pay them with venture debt. First of all, with venture capital, it has to be a long enough time horizon such that I get to my next round.
Yeah.
I have to tell the next investors, hey, my use of funds, I'm going to raise $10 million. And by the way, $2 million is going to my lender. And by the way, I'm giving away equity to send that $2 million to my lender.
If you don't break your contract, why would you send me equity?
But I'm suggesting a lot of startups would not be able to.
Yeah, right. But why does venture debt exist if, by your logic, they wouldn't like any companies to take on venture debt?
I believe that almost universally venture capital has turned on venture debt in the past 2 years because of exactly what you just described. At a time where everyone was spending money and capital came easy, there was a variety of things you could do to pay your venture debt provider or renegotiate terms with them or whatever it might be. I think now no one's recommending that their founders go through that journey.
I have a slightly more optimistic take on venture debt. I think there is a role for that asset class to play in this ecosystem for sure. I think my question is like, it's not appropriate for every startup.
Yes, of course.
So how are you selecting and vetting, and then what's the diligence process that you're going through to figure out what's the appropriate way to value that risk of that startup? And then, my question is like, so you're on two sides of the marketplace. It's not the entire pool of startups. It's some subset. Where's your entry point? And then on the other side too, for the funders, like, what's the entry point? And so who's kind of your beachhead and your earliest adopters? And I care more. Well, I'd love to hear you talk about both sides. Yeah. I'd love for you to start on the startup side.
So startup side, we really focus on seed to Series C, and we use custom-tuned LLMs that use Plaid to pin the company's bank account. And we also pull the founder's history and use natural language processing to kind of analyze their who's on their cap table, their past history, and all of that. So hundreds of parameters to give you a risk score. And of course, from the lender's perspective, they don't trust your underwriting system entirely, so they'll do their own sanity check. But we really pre-filter, pre-vet these companies for them. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, that makes sense. And do you think there's like certain industries for startups for which debt is a better asset class?
I think tech companies in general, it's especially underserved. And I think this could be an opportunity.
Super interesting. I think tech broadly, I would be worried about general cash flow generation and the ability for that startup to pay back.
Yeah.
Or pay interest and then pay back the initial principal. I have always thought, and this is not an area where I spend a ton of time, I always thought that if you are a CPG product, you're selling a item that has positive unit economics, then it's like you're not taking on venture level risks. So actually, why should you give away equity?
Yeah.
I'm not, whether you sell, 10 suitcases or 500,000 suitcases, if your unit economics makes sense, and actually I think you should I think there's an argument to be made to take on debt. I do think consumer as a category right now is challenging and you'd have to underwrite, particularly to that category and also current macroeconomics. But I would say like starting in a particular vertical that is particularly made for debt,
And then the question becomes, and this is the evidence you'd have to give to an investor, is that are there enough startups to be worthwhile here? Because to Nika's point, I don't disagree that some startups should take on debt. If you're throwing off cash and you have the ability to invest cash to make more cash, go for it. But is that enough to justify a startup itself, a business itself? Is that enough to justify a marketplace? The early stage environment, if I had to guess, cannot justify, does not have enough cash flow drowning startups and founders who warrant, kind of a debt marketplace from a private credit perspective. But for the sake of time, we do have to stop here. Thank you so much, Zoe, for sharing. Appreciate it.
Yeah.
Awesome. Round of applause. Next founder up. Tell us your name.
Hello, everyone. Hi,
What's
my
your
name
name?
is Ali Gurajak. I'm the founder of Meto.
Are you ready to give your minute pitch, get some feedback?
Yes, sure, I'm ready.
What are you building?
I'm building the marketplace called Meto. Meto is a Web3 marketplace. It allows customers for designer furniture and artwork, which we are bridging the home decor with an emerging art. And so where people can now are enabled to do configuration and customization in a 3D design templates that are submitted through worldwide designers. And we train our AI for the best recommendation engines where that actually matches the best artwork that goes and aligns with that furniture, which helps that buyer for decorating their environment and building that best living spaces, in which an artwork is something it's very demanded as a secondary market, and also what we also help the consumers and the artists to authenticate and to validate the data. And so when they are tired, because it's any type of home
That's about a minute.
information, absolutely.
Round of
That.
applause.
Thank you.
Thoughts?
Simply bridging the home decor with an emerging art and bringing the designer furniture and rugs and artwork, and then the future tokenization. So we aim to build the community of artists and designers, and then future involvement is going to start tokenizing these tangible real world assets
Okay.
through our marketplace.
What's the problem that you're solving?
The real problem that exists in the furniture market are the returns. In 2022, $178 billion has been lost. Just because of that, returns that can not really give the full confidence for any kind of consumer. Just that is one thing, that one big vertical that we try to solve that existing in the home decor market.
Super helpful. How do you
23%
solve?
to drop down to 2 to 3% with the help of augmented reality.
Okay. And so talk to me more about how you're solving the returns problem.
Absolutely. So the 3D model now, even in IKEA and other furniture companies are using this. And what we else offering to this concept, it's multiple objects where you can customize in your physical environment. So that 3D model can be digitized in your physical environment. So you can do mix and match. So that's the methodology that we thought of that could actually solve the problem that exists in the furniture, but also that can align by bringing the best match of artwork, because the artwork is the perfect component that aligns so well with the furniture. So now you can bring your table, your sofa, your chair, your recliner, any environment, not just 1 or 3, 5, 10, as much as you want to. And then you can decorate with the artwork or a piece of mineral or a piece of other furniture, and you can put together, and you can put that sculpture at the top of that table. And that helps you. And even that's helps you to estimate the dimension. So the gap, it actually tells you, that scans, so that basically you're already being convinced with that dimension, the gap that you're allowed to, so that basically you can squeeze it, so that furniture that will fit, so you don't have to. And as long as you actually that match that you're trying to build for your space to make it more embellished, right? So that actually helps for that item not being returned. And you're saving billions of dollars, guys, literally. So this is the major problem, and that we're aimed to go in. Second of all is that certificate of purchases, which we which people name that an NFT, but for us, it's that actually the proof of purchase. So whatever that goes there, that's submitted by our artist, that we evaluate them, we validate them, and then we authenticate them, basically doing the all due diligence.
Pausing you. Okay. Where do I begin? We've met, so I feel the right, let's call it, to be a little direct.
Please.
You told a minute pitch that has nothing to do with the product you then described. And it's Web3, which makes all of it much worse. I don't like Web3 as a general principle. I don't understand why it's related. Let's put that to the side for a second. We'll come back to it. What does the first portion of your minute have to do with the furniture, decor, matchmaking, 3D modeling product that you described? You described a user experience pretty vividly. In fact, much better than most founders who get on this stage. You gave me the ability to feel what your product is. I have no idea how it was related to the first minute.
All right, let me break it down.
Yeah.
Let me break it down. So it's really nowadays is really not that Web3, by the way, just more in the industrial.
So take that and toss it in the tree.
It's more 2.5 because we are listing these artwork in a 2D where now these people can see them all 360. So they can rotate it. But also,
is the reason you're Web3 because you have art that you want people to turn into physical art?
What do you mean by physical art? Everything is physical, by the way. Whatever is listed, it's actually technically
so then why is it
shipped
Web3?
to you. Because the platform, it's all in the Web3 where because of the blockchain, because...
Does what for me? I buy art, I put it on my wall.
Yeah. So we actually put on our chain, and then we're now utilizing Polygon, which is an Ethereum. And then towards...
For what purpose?
For what purpose? Because people do want to see them authenticated and buyers. And also
want to do what authenticated?
Say it one more time.
What do they want to see authenticated?
That artwork. It's actually registered in any chain.
Why does it need to be a chain?
Because people
how do people do physical verification?
Right. So the physical verifications are now costly, right? And also when you decide to relist that artwork, people get tired, and it's like another decorative pieces. And when you actually tend to change your home decoration, you might also want to trade your art, or you want to get rid of it.
What do people do today?
What people are doing today with the traditional system, they're either working with the auction houses, which is another component in our marketplace. You can simply think our marketplace as a regular marketplace, but what differentiates us that we are building a design software. So our design editor that is being embedded in the marketplace is something that has never been done.
Okay, let me just put it this way. I would never use a Web3 product, ever. I haven't, except once. In 2022 or 2023, I finally decided as a product person, I should experience what it's like to buy Bitcoin. So for the first time in my life, I bought some Bitcoin. Other than that, I refuse. It's all either ambitious, well-meaning people like you, or scammers, grifters, including the VCs who have built it. I'll say that out loud. So stop. You didn't say anything that needs to be built on the blockchains. For the love of God, founders, give up. Web3 means absolutely nothing to you achieving the design, the art, the furniture. The only thing it does is it means people like me will never touch your product. And so if there are other reasons for me to touch your product, all you've done is poison the thing. There's now I think two Web3 products that have gotten on the stage that have kind of convinced me because they do that 2.5 thing. It's like, this is like the 17th time. I wonder if he still watches the feedback loop. Fime of Blaze, it's a peer-to-peer Venmo style thing that's backed by USDC so that you can do it as a stable coin so you can do international. My desire for him is to follow the law, and I think his thing only works in a case where no one cares that he's facilitating international payments. But if we've accepted that illegal transactions will happen, then he's going to build a good business on top of illegal transactions. Fair enough. This is not compelling from Web2 perspective. So my encouragement to you is everything you said about Web3 has absolutely nothing to do with the rest of the value proposition. Tossed in the trash.
Let's skip in the 2.5 with the actual marketplace.
Two only.
Fine. But the reason that let's actually focus on why it's Web3. It's only linked to the crypto. No. And some people are confused there because it's not just the crypto. it is all about the 3D representation, which we call digital twins, guys. So this product can be tokenized, and that has to be shipped to you. And there's no such a thing that actually those kitty cats or those type of NFTs that we're even touching. No, the reason that we are authenticating, because the artwork by our art directors, by our head of art, who comes from an art, he used to work for Pace Galleries and Park West Galleries, which are the most prestigious.
So you have as a 3D marketplace and a 3D modeling platform that allows people to see stuff in their space, which makes them more likely to transact, less likely to return, more likely to see things they wouldn't have bought because it allows them to visualize the thing. It allows the people who build the thing to better showcase their product. None of this needs the Web3 components.
Oh, that's right. It's the reason that why I am actually linking that to Web3 because of the blockchain component and the 3D environments. Because the 3D, we're actually building the global art hub for artists and designers that actually can put their artworks there. So they can actually, even with their avatars, that they can actually be even hang out next to their artwork. So someone actually visiting from Hong Kong, someone is actually visiting from Turkey, someone is visiting from France. They might actually happen to run across with these people and actually have a conversation when they are not able to visit these people in life and never going to be able to actually have the chance to even see them. So now we're going to be doing some art talks, art educations about the art history. And then that is actually a value add where they can attend to these environments and where the buyers can come across and then they can talk. So these 3D environments that I actually link as a Web3.
I hear you. I guess my challenge with this pitch is that that's totally a problem. And you just mentioned a solution for it. And then also you mentioned you started with the problem of the size of furniture returns, which I think is quite not associated with this problem of being able to have a broader range of audiences for your artwork and be able to engage with other art owners and pieces of art. And so maybe this is a sequencing question, and maybe it's what is the first iteration of your product? What's kind of your MVP, and who's also your customer, who's paying you, right? Because I imagine the people who experience the furniture returns problem is not and willing to pay to solve that problem. It's not quite the people who are experiencing the art
I have an answer for that. Nika, the same thing that happens, that it cures for that same problem, that it cures for the artwork as well. People do want to visualize it. So what our technology provides any type of consumer, which there are knowledge and educated art buyers that are, and furniture, which is a commodity. So anybody, which the replacement rates are 3 to 5 years, by the way, with the furniture. So when we do showcase that product that helps them to vision, yes, with the artwork, when you show the artwork with the furniture, it helps people to make a better decision. And even our AI, which we've been training, the AI with those design classifications, the categorized models that we actually build. So any furniture that being listed, before it gets listed, we give them a mark where it's either classified as eclectic, it's either classified as bohemian, or it's either or both, or even including modern, contemporary, etc., etc. So we're also building that recommendation engine based on that artwork, which is specified by our head of art and the art directors that actually brings, hey, this type of artwork, it's a contemporary, and it's actually this, and it's actually the type of this, and genre is this. So we built the best match, which helps the furniture buyer to, make the purchase.
Yeah. I guess I would just say that I totally agree that seeing the art, seeing the furniture as a buyer, super useful. But the furniture return piece isn't so much my problem. I'll go and buy furniture all day and then I'll call up, whoever delivered it and return it. It costs me a little bit of inconvenience, but I'm not the main bearer of the cost of furniture returns, right? The furniture manufacturer or distributor or retailer is, right? The problem that you've mentioned that you're solving is really the one related much more to the consumer and oriented towards the consumer buyer.
Augmented reality.
Than yes. And and having the artwork on the blockchain to track maybe the journey that artwork or the ownership journey of that artwork. That's like a consumer problem. But that's actually not really tied to like however many billions of dollars is lost because furnitures get returned. Like it's not consumers losing that money. You know what I mean? It's the retailers losing that money.
Right.
And the retailers don't.
So B2C is the way to go. And because they're actually solving the actual consumer's problem with the returns.
For the sake of time, I'm going to wrap things up, which is my privilege as the host of this show. I root for founders. So I'm rooting for you even though you're in Web3. And there are many Web3 founders who have come on this stage.
I'm never going to say promise. No more Web3.
And you didn't tell me Web3 last time when we met. Just so you know, you tricked me. You did not say Web3
We're
last
not,
time.
by the way. So I apologize for that.
But
which we are
let me be clear to you.
Yes,
I'm rooting for founders. But I'm rooting for founders to solve the thing they actually care about. FIME cares about international payments, or what are other blockchain companies that have come in here? I kind of wash them away. Whatever problem they care about, being Web3 in 2024 and beyond is no longer going to help you. Everything you want to achieve with the art's history and where it's been and authentication, do it the hard way, do it the traditional way, because at this point, people are over it. These platforms have died. A16Z made their money. No one else has. Let's move on. No, let me finish. Build the 3D modeling, the furniture. I can see it. I can place it next to each other. It's less likely that I return it, maybe, to Nika's overall point. The parts that you're describing with Web3, because I'm rooting for you, this is the final word, we're going to stop here, have had no impact to your ability to achieve your mission, which I'm excited about from a 3D modeling, a marketplace, a measurement. I'm buying a lot of furniture for this office. I love
That's the main
to
focus.
put 3D. It should be the only focus. Thank you so much for sharing. That's it.
Thank you very
That's
much.
it. Whew. I'm on a vendetta.
Great. I hear it. I hear it.
I think the challenge comes down to the same question you've been asking founders, though. Who's willing to pay for it? And in this, there was actually some interesting notion of furniture, modeling, layout, that maybe a consumer is willing to pay for. There was an interesting problem with the returns that if there was a solution to the returns problem, someone's willing to pay for. Web3 portion, I'm not sure people are willing to pay for.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
But maybe we're not the target audience.
That's true too. That's true too.